So hi, welcome back to Camp Canine. Tony Twist here. It has been a long time since I chatted to you guys and done a garden tour, which is kind of what I'm doing today. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if you've been having the same problems that I've been having. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of people struggling this year with produce. Anything from the fact that the weather has just not been with us this year. It's been very, very wet. There's been a lot of flooding. Then it's been very, very hot, but very, very short periods of the heat before going back to rain again. There's not been enough sun. The pollinators just don't seem to be around, and produce has, generally speaking, been quite low for a lot of people. And given the amount of effort I went into at the beginning of the year to build the raised beds and build my front vegetable garden, it's a little disappointing that things are not coming to fruit this year, because it should have been amazing. But never mind. Every year is different, is it not? So this year I've done a lot of building and we've got some new additions. So I just thought I'd take you through. So starting first, I've just got to show you this. Can you see this? That is a squash plant that I had as a backup squash plant in my conservatory cum greenhouse. If the squashes that I put out failed, I had these backup ones to put out, and this was one, and I forgot that I had it here. And to be honest, it was in a pot in this corner on a raised table or something. I can't remember what it was on, and it didn't look like it was massive, so I really wasn't paying it much attention, just feeding it a bit of water, and that was it. What I didn't realize was it was trailing down the back of what it was growing on, and it was a lot larger than I actually realized or thought it was. So then I decided I'd give it this pot. There are actually 4 plants here, so there's one there, one there, one there, and one there. So as you can see, they're growing up in various different directions. Now the only problem is that obviously when you're in a greenhouse or a conservatory situation, you don't have a lot of pollinators that come in and out. Now I do leave my windows open, I do leave my doors open. I try to give them pollinators as much opportunity to come in here as possible. It's not massive. I have really hoped that they would be coming in, but if they didn't, I was all ready to get my paintbrush out and do the pollinating myself. There's just one problem with that. And please put in the comments down here if you have experienced the same thing, and is this the problem that we're actually having this year? Not so much the pollinators, but the lack of genders in the plant, if that's the right frame. Obviously I'm not a really expert gardener, but we have things like this which get you all excited. Okay, lovely female flowers. There's 3 on this bit right here. There's another one at the end there. If we come over here, we have this beauty here. You can see this beautiful one up here. There's another here. I picked one just before I lost it yesterday. But in most situations what happens is that they shrivel up like that. Can you see that? I'm hoping you can see that. So that basically, I can pick it off if I can climb up here without breaking my neck, shrivels up into something like that. Now if you're, oh, there's another one that's lost it, and another one. So there you go. It's disappointing when you've got something that grows into something like that and then shrivels up into something like this. It's really disappointing. It's really upsetting. And the reason why it's done that is because it wasn't properly pollinated. or even pollinated at all. They start off growing and they need pollinating to turn into what they're meant to be turning into. So if you don't have pollinators around, what you do is you get your paintbrush, you stick it into the male part, and then you stick that into the female part, and then you get the pollination. I have one problem. I'm going to step back here. I don't know if you can see. Can you see any male flowers on this squash? 4 squash plants. I can tell you I can see one. He's up there in that corner there. Oh, excuse me. And what's been happening is that when the females are in bloom, I've got no male flowers. And when the males bloom, the females have already died and gone away. How am I meant to cope with that? There's nothing I can do. Possibly cross-pollination, and for that I need to go outside and see what my squash plants are doing outside. So now I'm outside. I can't let these go to waste when I've got some new members of family to introduce you to. These ladies, 6 beautiful hens that have come to me from a friend. I had been thinking about getting chickens, and she had these chickens and her lifestyle was changing and she didn't know what to do with her chickens, and to begin with she's gone on holiday. So what we've basically agreed to do is have them here with us for 2 weeks to see how it goes. We do have the dogs here, we do have the doggy daycare out the back. We don't know how disrupting that's going to be for the girls, for the ladies. Sorry, I should actually put myself in a position where you can you can see them rather than facing the other way. So yeah, we don't know how disrupting this is going to be for the ladies. They haven't started laying yet. They have been here for, this is Purdy, my Egyptian princess, what a mess. A week and 4 days, 3 days, three and a bit days. They've not started laying yet, but it can take a couple of weeks before they're settled in and start laying. Hi ladies, you want something sweet? So they haven't actually got names. We've called, in the back there's Speckles. She's the more submissive of all of them. The big grey one in the middle, we've called her Big Mama. She goes into a panic every evening, whilst all of them are getting into here to sleep, and they start to disappear, and she's backwards and forth and backwards and forth and backwards and forth and backwards and forth, and I don't know if she's rounding them up to try and get them into the coop, or whether she's panicking because suddenly they're disappearing and they were all there a minute ago and now they're going. I don't know what it is, but it's quite amusing, and if I can capture it on video I will for you. The 3 reds are ex-battery hens. They've been rescued. One's got a bare chest, one's got a bare neck, and one's got full feather. So at the moment it's red chest, red neck, reds. We haven't got proper names for them. And then hiding behind the tree just here is a little grey or lavender. Maybe lavender's a good name for her. She's going shy. She's going camera shy. Bless her. She's the little guard dog. She's the one that whenever anything's going on, she lets out the alert. Other than that, she's a cute little girl. So anyway, they've got my bits of squash that aren't growing into anything. So let's go and have a look at the other squash plants, see how they're doing. So behind me are my 3 sisters experiment. The 3 sisters being your beans and your squash and your corn that you grow together. They're meant to grow very well together if you're working with companion planting. My beans have not done so well. I planted peas there first of all. The peas have been probably the most successful thing that I have grown this year, and I have come to absolutely love the taste of the fresh peas. But as squashes go, let's go and have a look. To begin with, I really need to make a note to myself to check whether squashes are climbing or bush type, because we've got trellis. Can you see the arched trellis above me? So we've got trellis down either side. On this side I had planted what was known as yellow bird. It was a little one, tiny little one. Now this is about as much as we've managed to get so far from yellow bird. They are tiny and they don't get very far and then they fall off, so I don't think this is pollinating very well at all. This one died completely and this one is pretty much non-existent. Just not happy at all. On this side, look at all those beans. Sorry, just taking a break from the squash. Can you see all those peas? The peas. I love walking through here. It's just magical being surrounded by peas that you can just pick off and eat. So right, on this side I planted trombo something or other squash. You'll probably know, if you're into your squashes, you'll know which ones I planted. And zucchetta, not zucchini, don't confuse it. So here we've had one beautiful squash off of here. Here's another one that's growing very well at the moment. So this bush is doing fine and it's climbing up. It's got as high as here. So that's showing some promise. Look, can you see all these peas? Wow. And it's still flowering. You can't see me because of the sun. So that plant, and still it's coming through here as well, is doing very well. We've had some off of it. That was the trombo one. The zucchetta ones was this one in here, which, if you can look through, has got something growing on it, but I am not sure if that's going to come to anything. This one hasn't got anything on it. Might be a little bit hard for you to see through all the peas, but I can't actually see any male flowers, so I don't know how easy pollination is going to be for that. And because they are species that I've never grown before, I don't actually know what they're meant to grow into. So I don't know how big they're meant to grow. So that's going to be a learning curve as well. Right, so this is, and I can't pronounce this. This is a, I'm hoping there might be a label in here. Yes. Uchiki curry. You know that range? Species. Uchiki curry. It's a Japanese squash. I have no idea what it's meant to grow into. I don't know how big it's meant to get, but at the moment we're looking at around about this size. There's another one up here, but this one doesn't look very healthy. Looks like it may be on its way out. Also, there does look like a bit of slug damage there. There's another there's another Japanese squash here and another one here. Neither of those have created any fruit from them whatsoever, and there's barely a flower on them. So one of those plants might do well out of the three. There looks like there might be some flowers coming, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, I have planted my squash here and over against the fence in the boat area. So we'll go over and have a look at those in a minute. So the other range of squash that I grew were the patty pans. This is the first one for me. Some people might call them gorges rather than squashes. This little one, this fella's got a little one growing on it. Tiny little one there. So we might get, but it's a tiny plants on it here. Here again, we've got one growing. That looks quite healthy. There's another one on the other side of it, but unless, I mean, these plants are tiny. They are so tiny. Yeah, we've got one growing there. That's a nice size. That's doing quite well. And then on this one, this is going quite well as well. Not surprisingly enough, on my other area where I'm growing the squash, again, the patty pan have done better than any of the others. So maybe it's the time of the year, maybe because of the weather patterns, it's just not doing things at the time of the year that you expect them to, and I just need to be a bit more patient, but I'm not sure. But let's go and have a look at the others. So this is my fence that separates my boat area from my parking area, and this is where we had the straw bales running all the way along and all the way up into the distance, breaking in the middle for the gate. We were going to plant straight into them, and we tried. I did have a go at planting straight into them. The plants didn't do too well, so then I decided I would just stick some pots on the top, plant into the pots, go from there. So there is a mixture of squashes here. I had a lot of butternut squash because I took the seeds from a butternut squash that I had bought from the supermarket last year. Planted way too many of them, not expecting them to actually grow, and they all grew. So pretty much every other bucket here is a butternut squash, but there are other species here. There is patty pan, there is yellow bird, there are some pumpkins up the far end, there is the uchi curry, Japanese one is here as well, and I've got a sweet one as well. I can't remember the name of that one. Anyway, there are various, generally speaking, the same varieties, but pretty much the same sort of production from them. So I've come outside to take you through, only because along here we have the patty pan popping through the fence, which makes it really handy when I need to pick this little fella. Again, they have been doing the best out of all of them. We've had a couple off of here already. I'm not sure what size they're meant to grow to, but I've harvested them and they were really quite nice and tasty, so I was happy with them. Here we go, we've got another uchi, I think, here. Beginning to grow. Again, there's not too many flowers. There are a couple more females in the background, but I can't really see any male flowers, so I'm getting a bit worried about that. I have spotted, oh, I've just lost him. I was going to show you. Oh, there it is. Our friend, can you see? Where is it? Here, can you see him? Little ladybird. We love the ladybirds. The ladybirds are really keeping my aphids down, and whenever I find one, I tend to move it to where the aphids are most. So you can see that these squashes are doing quite well, and they're kind of bursting through the fence. They were meant to climb up the fence. I kind of lost the plot, I think, a little way along the line. So we do have others growing here, but again, it's not really great news. They're not doing particularly well. We're going to just pop inside, back into the garden, and just show you from this side. So they're growing, but I've seen video footage of people's squashes, and you saw the squashes indoors. That they were huge. The leaves on those were huge. I mean, okay, it's going to differ slightly from one species to another, but this guy seems nice and strong and healthy, but still on the small side. See, there's a lot. From this side now, you can see this is the Uchikuri one, and just look, there's quite a few females. But unless we get some male pollination, proper male pollination going on, these are just going to shrivel up and die. And that's what's been happening. So I planted another variety here. Started it off from seed, just saw it was a variety that I hadn't got. It was a sweet squash. I forget what range it is, what species it is, but I planted it in here. I've run out of other spaces, so it's here, and she's doing quite well. She's got some nice healthy leaves on her. No sign of any flowers yet, but hey ho. I've gone from eagerly awaiting the produce from the garden to realizing that this year is just not going to be a normal year, and this is a good example. These are my courgettes, zucchinis. I have got normal zucchini here, and I think there, and then I've got some, I think it's Black Beauty growing in here, and this was meant to be yellow grill or something like that. This is a yellow one anyway, so I was going to have a yellow one, a very, very dark green one, a very light green one, and a very typical zucchini coloured green one. I'm normally swimming in courgettes and zucchinis at this time of the year, and I've barely had one or two out of here. Again, I'm picking them when they're really young because they're shriveling up, because they're just not getting the pollination. I think it might be time for me to seriously consider investing in a beehive. I really do. So those are my squashes, those are my courgettes. In the same family we have melons and cucumbers. So my cucumbers, if you followed my other videos, failed time and time and time again. I'll get you into a better view. So this run here of these three, I'm not used to doing this, 2, 3 pallet containers here were meant to be my aubergine, my eggplants, my cucumbers and my peppers. Well, the pepper plants have barely got off the ground. I've killed nearly every cucumber, or failed to grow nearly every cucumber that I've planted. Either I planted them too early and then that last horrible storm in May took them out. So I learnt my lesson, don't plant out so early. So then I planted some more from seed, grew them, planted them outside late June. They've barely got off the ground. They're probably 3 or 4 leaves. Let me pick one and show you one. So here you go. So here's one, here's another. This one's a little bit bigger, but this is it. We're almost 2 months now. These guys have been out in the, maybe not 2 months, maybe I'm exaggerating. Here you go. Here's another one that I planted. That's again, it's got nowhere. So, and here you go again. I bought this one in a shop recently because I thought, well, maybe it's my seed planting, maybe that's not what's working properly. Killed cucamelons a number of times, but these are a successful little bunch here that I have managed to grow, and so there, thumbs up to that. I did not think I was going to cope with them because I thought I was going to fail with them. I went and broke the rules this year and bought some from the shop. So here we go. These ones here are, you're climbing the wrong way, darling. You want to be going the other way. So here, more cucamelon. So yeah, my plan had been cucamelons growing over and down this lovely arch here. Whether it's going to happen or not, I have no idea. I'll be lucky if they get off the ground, but you never know. Let's hope so. This I bought as a cucumber. I'm not 100% that's not a squash. But I've kind of lost the plot as far as cucumbers have gone this year. By now, again, I would normally have cucumbers hanging off the plants, and I would know for definite that I planted a cucumber. And I've not even had one flower off of these yet. And yet the plants that I managed to kill by putting out too early were already this high and had numerous flowers on them by the time I planted them out. I just planted them too early, and we had that burst of warm weather and they got ahead of themselves, or I got ahead of myself. So we do have another cucumber in here. So that's my cucumbers. They're barely off the ground. I know there are other people that are feeling exactly the same way about their cucumbers. I know I'm not alone, and because I see their videos, it helps me not fall to pieces over what feels quite a failure this year, to be honest with you. Growing melons for the very first time, and again, total wipeout. This guy here looks like he's barely holding it together. In this bed I have this tiny little fella here, this tiny little fella here, and one more in this corner here. They're meant to be watermelons. That is as far as they've got, as far as they've grown all year. Just don't know what I've done wrong. And then here I gave up and bought this melon plant from the shop and planted it in last week. In this one here, so basically these two beds were meant to be given over to melons. I was meant to be doing the climbing frames with them as well, but I planted them so long ago, and I was just I just kind of lost the plot with planting more trellises or building more trellises. And maybe you should build it and they will come, you never know. Anyway, I've got this tiny little mini melon that I've planted, which I haven't put outside yet. It's getting used to the outdoor weather at the moment. I'm toying with the idea of growing it putting it back into the conservatory and growing it indoors like it would be in a greenhouse. I'm considering it just to see if I can actually grow melons, because it doesn't look like I'm going to grow many melons. But this one's been in here for months, 2 months. Same with this one here, which is pretty much gone. There was another one here, I think it's this one here, it's pretty much gone. So I bought this guy. He looks stronger than all of mine, so I bought him and I planted him. So hopefully he'll do okay. Anyway, so those are all